Namaskar everybody. Welcome to the Gita Satsang for today. Let us get started with the Prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Gita Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let's chant the shlokas. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतः क्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः रामानुजदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुग्म व्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये. So with prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us go to our shloka for today. So we are in the 7th chapter and today we are going to take up the 8th shloka. So in this, Krishna tells Arjuna, Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi suryayoho pranavah sarva vedeshu shabda khe paurusham nrishu. He tells Arjuna that I am the sapidity, the taste. I am the taste in the water, O Arjuna, O Kaunteya. I am the radiance which is there in the sun and the moon. I am the sacred syllable Om, the Pranava in all the Vedas. I am only the sound in the ether. And I am only the valor which is present in men. So all these things, I only am all these things. That is what Krishna tells Arjuna. So let us try to understand what is the meaning of this shloka. Now in the previous shlokas, if you remember, he had told how all the Achit Tattvas are his property. Then he had talked about how the Chit Tattvas, that is the Jivatmas, are all his property. Then further he went on to claim, to declare that nobody and nothing in this universe is equal to him or superior to him. And in the last shloka that we have seen in the previous satsang, he said that he is like the thread which holds all the pearls, the beads together in a mala. Sutre manigana iva. So he said just like the sutra, the thread is holding all the beads on the mala. Although the thread is not visible, it is because of the presence of the thread that that necklace has its identity as a necklace. Similarly, within all of us also, within every Jivatma, the Paramatma is present and he is what holds together, he is the one who holds together everything in this universe. Now, hearing this, there was some kind of a doubt in Arjuna's mind. Now, when Krishna said that he is in everything, then what he implied was that we should not look for anything else as being superior in this world. We should turn to the Lord himself. Everything we want is actually the Lord. So now Arjuna has a doubt in his mind that generally we live in this world and we use all different things which we are having. Like I eat some food or I smell some fragrance. I wear some clothes. I want to have enjoyment, so I watch a movie or something. I do certain activities in this world. How is it not that I'm using those particular objects? How can I say that for everything I will turn to God? I want some proper concrete objects to enjoy those different qualities which they are given me. Like for example, if I rub some sandalwood, I will get a fragrant paste which is giving me fragrance. If I want to cook food, I have to use fire, right? So is it possible for me to seek everything in the Lord? Don't I need all these other objects in the world? That is the kind of doubt. How can we say that everything is God? There is nothing else in this world other than Him. All chitta, chitta is property. Nothing else is there in this world. Everything belongs to Him. And we are using all these other objects. So how do we say that? That is the doubt in Arjuna's mind. Another doubt that Arjuna has in his mind is that generally, whenever we are setting out to achieve something, now when the Lord said that nothing is equal or superior to him, he tells Arjuna that you have to strive and everything you have to do is to attain me only. And to attain me, you have to come through me only. So the other doubt that Arjuna has is that usually in our worldly life, if we are traveling to go somewhere to reach some destination, the destination is different from the means which we are using to get there. Like if I say that I want to get a promotion at work, I have to put in hard work, I have to work on some challenging projects, and then I will get promoted. So that work, what I do, that is the means. And the promotion that I get is the end, that is the destination. If I'm going on a physical journey, let's say I'm going from here to Mysore, then Mysore is my destination. And if I go by bus or I go by train or I take a flight, then that is the means that I'm using. So always in this world, the means and the destination are different. Now, Krishna is implying and telling that he is only everything. So how is it possible? That kind of doubt is there in Arjuna's mind. So by giving this answer through this shloka, Krishna is answering. Now, this doubt in Arjuna's mind, he is not telling loudly, but Krishna understands what is the doubt in Arjuna's mind and he answers this. So, what he tries to say here, he's saying that when we are thirsty, we drink water. Is it the water alone which is quenching my thirst, or it is the special ability in the water, the taste in the water which is quenching my thirst? It is the quality of the water which is quenching my thirst. When we look at the sun and the moon, are they only physical objects like sun and moon, or there is some tejas, there is some prabha in them, there is some radiance within them? That is it same as the sun and the moon, or is it different from them? How is it coming? So here Krishna is saying that whatever is a particular quality which is there in a particular object, I am the one who is that. So if you are saying that water you are drinking and it is quenching your thirst, then the taste in the water is me. If you are looking at the sun and the moon and saying they are radiant, then that radiance in the sun and moon is because of me. If the Om is there and it is giving so much power and energy to everyone, that is because of me. And whatever valor that people have, whatever special abilities that people have, that also is because of me. So whether it is the quality in an object or it is quality in any human being or any person which is something special, then that is proof of the existence of the Lord there. That itself is because that special quality is because of the Lord. So when that is the case, we may use objects in this world, we may have relation with people in this world, but we should understand that seated within that achit tattva or the chit tattva is the Paramatma there. The Paramatma is there. And because of him, that object or that person has whatever value they have. So when this is the case, we don't need to go anywhere else. We should approach the Lord only for everything. So if I'm enjoying some particular object in this world, an ignorant person will enjoy it for the sake of that object which he is enjoying. But the person who has understood this tattva of the Lord's existence in everything and everywhere, he will be able to see the Lord's presence in that object or in that person. When he starts seeing this, then his level of enjoyment is totally different and far, far superior to the person who is enjoying that object or thing with just his jnanendriyas. So that is the quality we should understand, that anything special in any object is belonging to the Lord. So here he has given some few representative examples. He is saying, in the water, I am the taste. In the sun and moon, I am the radiance. I am only the pranava in all the Veda mantras. So like this, he is trying to tell with specific examples. Further, he is giving some more examples in the ninth shloka. So he says, Punyo gandha prathivyam cha tejas chasmi vibhavasau jivanam sarva bhuteshu tapaschasmi tapasvishu. So he says, in the Prithvi, in the earth, the gandha which is there, the pure fragrance which is there in the earth, I am only that. In the fire, whatever teja is there, whatever brilliance is there, whatever radiance is there in the fire, I am that radiance. And in all beings, Sarva Bhuta, in all the beings, whatever is the life principle, why those things are having life, that is because of me. And the penance, the tapasya of whoever are the tapasvis, that tapas of the tapasvis also, I am only that tapas. So there is nothing that anybody or anything in this world can claim as belonging to them. All of it is because of the Lord Himself. Now, here if we notice, the Lord is telling and claiming that all the good things, no? He's telling, I'm the fragrance in the earth. He's telling, I'm brilliance in the fire. He says, I am the life principle in all the beings. Then he's saying, I'm the penance, the tapas of the tapasvis. Sorry. So we look at all these things that he's claiming to be him. If you notice, it is only, he's listing all the positive things only. And he's saying that he is the essence of all these positive things. So we may be thinking that, okay, maybe when he says he is the fragrance of the earth, he is only the good thing, he's only the good smell which we get in this earth. He is not the bad smell which comes, let us say, from the garbage. Or if he says that he is the tejas in the fire, then he is not that spark which burns down a house. Or we say that he is the tapas of the tapasvis. That means when the asuras are doing bad, then he is not involved with that, right? So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. The acharyas explain that if we look at this shloka just like this, we may feel that he's talking about all the positive things in everything and claiming that he is that. Does it mean then that he is not the negative things in those cases? If there is a garbage dump somewhere and the smell is coming, that is also the Lord. He is there in that also. But here he has listed only the positive. So if we take the example of beings, okay, now we know that Ravana was a Rakshasa, Vibhishana was the Rakshasa. Both were Rakshasas. But Ravana was full of Tamoguna and Rajoguna, and Vibhishana was full of Satvaguna. So Vibhishana was a so-called good Rakshasa, and Ravana was a bad Rakshasa. Now, when we are saying that everything, all the Jivatmas in this world are the body of the Lord, they are attached to the Lord, and the Lord exists within them, is the Lord existing only in Vibhishana and not existing in Ravana because Vibhishana is good and Ravana is bad? Not at all. The Lord is there, the Paramatma is there in everybody. So whether there is a positive component or a negative component, the Lord is always there in everything. So whether we see something as positive or negative is our interpretation of that. But in everything in this world, not necessarily only the good things or the right things or the positive things, in every single thing in this world, the Lord is present. Whether it is Prahlada, who was the Bhakta, or it is Hiranyakashipu, who was the Shatru. In everybody, again, the Lord is there, right? So, in fact, these examples help us to understand how the Lord is there in everything and everybody. So, if we are able to appreciate this fact, we will understand that this entire nature, whatever is there in this world around us, is not different from the Lord. So, having that kind of an attitude, we will be able to live in harmony with people around us as well as the environment around us. We will be content to have what we have and not hanker for things more which we don't have. So, understanding that the Lord is there in everything and at all times, in every being He is present, that is why Krishna is telling Arjuna that this is my greatness. He is explaining to Arjuna, he said, I am there in the Chit Tattva, I am there in the Achit Tattva, I am the thread which holds all the beads together. And now he is telling further that whatever is the essence in any object, I am there within that. So, by telling all this, he is trying to convey his greatness. Later in the further chapters, he will talk some more and he will take particular examples of the one who is the best among a particular category and talk about that in detail. We will see that in the further chapters when Krishna talks about it. But right now, he's trying to convey that he is the essence of everything which exists in this world. Now, in the 10th shloka, he continues further and he says, Bijam mam sarva bhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatamasmi tejas tejasvinamaham. So, what he's saying here is, he says, O Partha, Partha is Arjuna. So he's calling him Partha because he's son of Pritha. Pritha is the other name for Kunti. So, O Partha, know, you understand that I am the primeval, I am the original seed, I am the bija for all beings. I am the intelligence of the Buddhiman, of the discerning people, and I am the brilliance of the Tejasvis, of the brilliant. So, when we say something is the bija, generally this word bija is translated to mean the seed. So when we say seed, what we are trying to convey is that the bija or the seed is the root cause for a particular thing. So if you want to have a plant, you need to have a seed. And from that seed only, that plant will grow and you will get everything else that you get from the plant. So in that sense, bijam generally means seed. Now, so Krishna here, is he telling that I am the origin, I am the person, I am the one from which everything has originated in the world? That he has already told in the 4th chapter when he told about his Avatara Rahasya. At that time, he has conveyed that already. So he is not going to repeat it again here, right? Because that has already been conveyed. Then why is he telling here? In what sense is Krishna saying that he is the bija? So here the Acharya has explained that not only he means that he is the seed, in
Something is
the sense
happening.
that he is the cause. What he's trying to say is that he is also the agent which is responsible for any kind of transformation that occurs in any object in this world. He is not only the cause for origin of objects, but he is also the agent because of which some kind of a change or transformation occurs. Like, for example, we all know about milk. Now, if I boil the milk and then I add some little bit of, culture into it which contains some microorganisms, it will get converted into curd. If I take that curd and I make it diluted and then I churn it, I will get butter. If I get that butter and then I heat it, I will obtain ghee. So this butter, ghee, curd, everything has come from milk. So can we say that milk is the seed for all these things? Yes. But what is it that gives milk its property of being milk? What is it that is responsible for the transformation of the milk into curd, butter, and ghee? What is it that is the agent for this transformation? It is the Lord's power only. So when he says he is Bija, in this sense, that not only the object is he, the transformation that happens is also because of his power, because of his energy. So, for example, we are eating different things in our food. We are eating rice, we are eating dal, we are eating some vegetables, we are eating fruits, we are eating so many things in this world. Do we eat them in the form of so much carbohydrate I'm eating, protein I'm eating? No. We are eating the items, we are eating the different food items. But what happens when it goes into our body? Our body converts it into carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and then the body assimilates them. So, even that, the entire process of converting these food items into the particular categories of foods, into the particular energy giving substances, and then the digestion of those and the assimilation, the incorporation of that into the body, all that, whatever is happening, it is a transformative process that is going on. So when Lord says that he is the bija, he is not only present in the rice and dal and vegetables, he is also the agent who is responsible for all this transformation and for our body to have assimilated that. So through these examples, I think we can understand how all pervading is the Lord. So when he says he is Sarva Bhutanam, he is telling here, no, that he is Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutanam. I am the seed, I am the bija for all beings. So, what does he mean by all beings? All beings means all those things in matter which are subject to some kind of change. So, right from a blade of grass until the topmost level of Brahma, everything comes under this category of Sarvabhuta. All those matters which are subject to any kind of change. So, he is the Bija, he is the agent for all those changes that take place. Now, here in the last part, he is telling that I am the intelligence of the intelligent people and I am the brilliance of the brilliant people. So, normally in this world, when we do something right, or somebody praises us as being intelligent, or as being brilliant, or as being very tapasvi, or whatever it may be, if someone has a good quality and that is highlighted and praised by people, then they should realize that what is being praised, that quality that they have, is nothing but because of the Lord. That is nothing to individually claim any ownership over that. If somebody is intelligent, if somebody is brilliant, if somebody is super skilled in some area, if somebody is a very talented singer, if somebody is a very exclusive, very exquisite kind of a dancer, if somebody is a sculptor, if there is somebody who is doing any kind of work in this world which is especially of a higher level, then that special skill which is there in that person, that again is because of the Lord only. So when he's saying that I am the buddhi in the buddhiman and I am the tejas in the tejasvina, I am the intelligence of the intelligence people and I am the brilliance of the brilliant people, he means to say that anything which is happening in this world, any kind of skill which any skilled person has, is entirely because the Lord is the bija. He is the agent who is responsible for all that, and he is the one who gives that ability also. And understanding this is critical if we want to get to the stage where we don't take doership for what we are doing. We must do all our work with the attitude that the Lord is seated within and making me to do it, that I'm being used as an instrument and he is the one who is actually doing it. So when we do with that sense of ownership, without that sense of feeling I am doing it, then we will be able to do the work in an effective way, and we will try to do it in a way which pleases God also. So, however, getting this attitude is not so easy. It is very difficult for us to give up the sense of doership, that kartritva bhava that is there, feeling that I am doing, is very difficult to give up. In fact, there is a story which all our acharyas tell to explain this whole concept, that even somebody as mighty as Garuda is considered in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, Garuda is called as a Nitya Suri. He is the one who is permanently, eternally present in the Sri Vaikuntha. He is always there in service of the Lord. He is constantly with the Lord. He is the Vahana of the Lord, and he is the one who is always serving the Lord. However, there was one incident which happened which shows us how even somebody as exalted, as superior as Garuda, can sometimes get lost and develop a sense of doership. So, what is this incident? So, what happened once is this Indra has a charioteer who is called as Matali. So, Indra's charioteer Matali had a daughter, and he wanted that daughter to be married to some serpent. He went around finding a good groom, and he found one snake called Sumukha. So he was very happy, and he decided to finalize the marriage of his daughter with that Sumukha. However, there was one catch, there was one problem. Now, at that point of time, Garuda had been, see, we know that for Garuda, for the eagle, the prey is snake. So he had been always, he would hunt and find snakes and eat them. That is his ahara. So at one point of time, there was a grave danger to the population of the snakes itself. So those snakes had worked out an agreement with Garuda by which they said, every particular day like this, we will send one snake will come. You please eat that one snake and be satisfied with that. Don't come and hunt all of us all the time because our population is dwindling. So Garuda had agreed to that. So it was a list was made which serpent is going to go as ahara for Garuda on a particular day. Now, when this Matali went and started finding groom and he found that this Sumukha serpent is a very good groom for his daughter, he came to know, somebody told him that after 1 month, that Sumukha is on that list of snake to be eaten by Garuda. So he was now distraught. He didn't know what to do. Oh, I found such a good groom for my daughter. But if he is going to be eaten by Garuda, then in 1 month, my daughter is going to be a widow. What to do? How to avoid this problem? So then Indra advises him that you go and seek, the help of Vishnu. You go to Sriman Narayana, you seek his help. So this Matali went there and he went and requested Lord Vishnu. So the Lord said that, okay, fine, don't worry, I am giving you protection. I will make sure that your uh, to be son in law is not eaten by Garuda. You have my word, I will protect him. So when the time came for Sumukha to be on going to Garuda, that Sumukha reached the Lord's Sri Vaikunta and he curled himself around the throne of the Lord on around Adishesha and he sat there. Garuda was searching everywhere for Sumukha and finally he came to know that this Sumukha is under the protection of the Lord. So Garuda, in that anger, he rushed there and he began to berate the Lord only. He started talking very rudely to the Lord. He said, see, you have made a rule that it is the serpents are the meal, they are the ahara for the uh, eagles. So I have to eat this snake. How can you, deprive me of my ahara? How can you do this? And Lord Vishnu just was quiet and smiling. So in his hunger and anger, Garuda became more and more angry. So what happened? He started talking like this. He said, how can you deprive me of my food? This, that. And then he got so angry and he got so carried away in his anger that finally he said something which is, like so foolish of him to say. He said, I have done so much for you. I am always carrying you here and there. I am your Vahana, you and your Devis. I am always carrying you everywhere. And in spite of all that I have done for you, how can you now do this to me? I want to eat this Sumukha. He is my Ahara. I cannot eat anybody else on this day. I have done so much for you, but you are doing like this to me. I am always carrying you and the Devis everywhere. You are doing like this to me. This unpardonable thing, Garuda said. So the Lord wanted to show him, he wanted to teach him a lesson. So the Lord said, oh, is it? Are you the one who's been carrying me around all this time? I didn't realize that. Okay, come here. He called Garuda. Come here, come close by. So Garuda went near the Lord. Now the Lord put just his tiny finger on the back of Garuda. And Garuda totally went flat to the ground. He couldn't bear the weight of that tiny finger of the Lord on his back. Immediately he came to his senses and he realized what a grave mistake he had done, what a big, foolish thought he had had, and he begged forgiveness from the Lord. What do we learn from this? Was Garuda carrying the Lord because of Garuda's ability? Or is it the ability of the Lord which was giving Garuda that ability? Is it the Lord himself? If it was that Garuda was carrying the Lord, he should have been able to bear the weight of the tiny finger of the Lord, right? So until the Lord was there performing that, Garuda was able to do it. So who was actually carrying whom? Was it the Lord who was being carried by Garuda? Or was it the Lord's presence in Garuda that gave him that ability to carry the Lord? So this story can help us to understand this whole concept that if there is anything which is special in somebody, if there is any quality which some object has, whether it is the first shloka we saw today, the seventh shloka, or it is this 10th shloka, in everything the Lord is saying that I am the bija and I am the quality which is there in everything and everybody. So this story of Garuda and Vishnu helps us to understand this concept. When we hear the concept in terms of its tattva, it is difficult for us to catch. But if we remember the essence of this story, if we try to understand why Garuda had the ability to carry the Lord, then we will understand what Krishna is telling in this story. So let us also understand that if at all we are blessed with any special quality, if at all we are able to carry out all our activities in the world, if at all we are able to do things that we are doing right now, then it is solely and wholly because of the Lord. He is the one who is giving us that ability. It is His presence within us as the Antaratma. That is what is making us do whatever we are doing. So let us pray to Him that He should bless us with this realization, and more so at the times when we tend to get carried away with the thought that, oh, I am so great, oh, I am doing so much, oh, people are praising me. Then we should not let that go to our head, and we should not get carried away with that wrong thought that we are the doers. Giving up that kartritva is what the Lord feels happy when we understand that He is within us and He is the doer. He is the one who is responsible for anything and everything that I'm able to do. That thought, if we realize, then we will be able to feel the presence of the Lord within us at all times. So let us pray to the Lord that He should bless us with this kind of a realization and help us to practice that in our life at all times. So, with that, we have come to the end of our topic for today. Let us stop here and we will continue with the further shlokas where Krishna is going to explain more and more about his abilities to Arjuna. So, let us offer Kritagnyata, gratitude, at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru for inspiring us to start this satsang, to join this satsang. And let us pray for Guru and Krishna's blessings to always be on us. Thank you, everybody, for joining in, and we will meet again next Thursday. Namaskar.